Good evening, guys. Hi, Cherise. Hi, Sue. Can you guys hear me? Can I just quickly get a thumbs up from somebody? I just want to make sure that everybody can hear me. Hallo Melissa, kan julle my hoor? Melissa, asseblief, iemand geef my net 'n thumbs up daar asseblief. Hi Zenda. Hallo Shal. Ja, ek moet so af en toe moet ek seker maar 'n bietjie opdres, nê. Nee. Okay, thanks guys. Thanks for the thumbs ups. I'm just going to give it another 5 minutes and then I'll start, if you don't mind. Ek sien hier's 'n paar mense wat my aanjaag. Julle moet maar net so klein bietjie wag asseblief. Hallo Maureen. Ja, ek dink hierdie topic van vanaand is nogal long overdue. So ons het 'n paar interessante gaste vanaand hier so wat ons gaan join. So ek sien nogal baie uit daarna. Ek het 'n paar vrae, ons het 'n paar vrae wat van ons lede afkom. En dan moet julle ook nou vanaand asseblief as julle 'n kansie kry, tik vir ons 'n vraag daaronder in die commentary box. Ons gaan nou nie we're not going to have much of an opportunity, guys, for you guys to join tonight. I think Neil and our guest speaker has got quite a lot to say, and I think they're going to keep us quite busy. So if there's time at the end of the discussion, I will allow 10 minutes for comments from you guys as well. So you guys can just send me a request to add you onto the live, and then you guys can ask some questions as well. But I think first and foremost, let's just give our guest speakers tonight a chance to say what they have to say. Neil's joining us in a few minutes, and then obviously we've got a lady here that's going to join us. She's already sent me a request, so let's not wait any longer. Let's just quickly try to add it to this live. I hope we don't experience the same problem as last week, so let's all hold thumbs.
Cool.
Good evening, Rene.
Good evening, Jacques. How are you doing? You probably
I'm fine.
shouldn't be fine, thanks. You probably shouldn't be seeing that picture of me.
Yeah, I thought I was going to just listen to you tonight and not actually see you.
Well, that's not a picture you should be seeing. I should have changed that profile picture.
Are you gonna put on your video camera tonight, or are you just going to talk to us?
I can put
via
on my
audio?
video. I can put on my video camera. Let me just go and have a look before I cause chaos again.
Asseblief man, ons wil sien hoe jy lyk.
O jy nee, dan skrik as jy daai prentjies sien, dan gaan jy nog meer skrik. Okay, laat ek net gou kyk. Oh no. I just lost you, unfortunately, so just send me another request so that we can add you guys. Rene is an energy consultant, and she's quite an expert on tonight's topic, so we will be asking her a few questions, obviously, and hopefully we will spark some debates. As soon as Neil joins, I think the two of them are going to have a lekker discussion tonight, and I think this is going to be very insightful and informative. So let's just wait for Rene to send me another request so that we can add her onto the live. Goeienaand aan almal wat vir my hallo sê. Dankie dat julle ons join vanaand, ons waardeer dit. Vanaand se topic of discussion is 'n baie interessante een. Ek hoop nou net nie die topic wat ons oor gaan praat vanaand gaan nou ons live ook beïnvloed nie. Guys, some people are saying that the sound is bad. Can I just, can you guys clearly hear me? Let's just try and add Rene again. Hi, Rene.
Hi, how are you doing?
There you are.
Is that better? Okay.
That's much better.
Okay, so let me just move quite a few. I've got lots of computers and stuff around me. Okay, so now we can have a talk. Great stuff.
Rene, just for the people out there, for all our viewers, will you kindly just quickly introduce yourself and just share some of your credentials with us? Because I think there's a lot of people that don't know you. So, and it's quite a mouthful for me to repeat. So please help me out.
Okay, so I'm CEO of a company called Trusted Utilities. We're energy and utility management consultants, and we work very closely with, we sort of facilitate alternative energy plant building as well. The whole purpose is to create visibility and transparency in energy and utility pricing. There's been over the years, obviously, so there's been a lot of, well, there's a lot of lack of transparency in the price of energy, all the way from the ground upwards. So even if you look at from between Eskom and municipalities, there's what we call cost reflectivity. We don't know as consumers, we don't know what that cost looks like, and there's a lot of hidden costs. And that's part of what we need to sort out. And then between municipalities and ourselves as consumers, there's a lot of, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on, is that there's a lot of middlemen in between, and that needs to be sorted out, because the regulations are very clear in that it says that as consumers, we must always pay exactly the same price as what we would have paid if we had purchased directly from the licensed distributor, which could be Eskom or the municipality. And when we break things down, very often we don't pay that. So, and because there's hidden costs, sometimes and that's basically the purpose and why we came into being, is to make sure that there's transparency in the price of it. Because we know as the cost of electricity goes up, so does everything else. And obviously that affects the economy. It has, and it affects all of us as consumers, and affects the economy and everything that we buy. So it's very important that we make sure that that for every rand that we spend, we actually get back what we're buying for. So
thanks, Rene. Yeah, that's quite an introduction. I think we've got a lot of topics to discuss tonight. I've got 5 questions of my own. I'm sure Neil has a bunch of questions, and then we're also going to take some questions from our viewers. I just want to see if I can quickly add Neil. I think he's trying to sign in. Yeah, he hasn't sent me a request yet. So while we are waiting for Neil, before we get to all the technical stuff, I want to ask your opinion on something, or maybe you have inside information, or I would like to know what has led to us being in the situation that we currently find ourselves in. We all know why we have load shedding. We know technically why, but what has led to South Africa reaching this point where Eskom can't meet the power demands of the country? What has led to that?
Are you asking Neil that question, or are you asking me that question?
I'm asking you. Neil is not on. Neil hasn't joined yet.
Are you asking me that question? Okay, so there's a whole lot of things that sort of lead to that, and obviously I don't work for Eskom, so it's very difficult also for me to answer that. But there's a myriad of things. Is that over the years a lack of maintenance. There's I think if you start looking at the quality of the coal that has been coming in, those sort of things. Also the demand that has increased as far as electricity is concerned. And also I think that there's just a lack of foresight as far as from a government point of view, as far as alternative energy and those sort of things are concerned. We can't continue, and just from a monopolistic point of view, you cannot continue, I think, realistically overall try to think that the demand for energy is going to increase, but you rely on a single source of supply. There always has to, I think, if you want to plan going forward, you need to start looking at a blended supply of energy. Just from a practical point of view, we live in South Africa. We probably have the best and the most sunshine in almost in the world, yet we make the least use of it. If you look at countries like Germany and things like that, the availability of sun and those sort of things are a lot less than what we have, yet they have an incredible alternative energy plans and those sort of things. And we don't make use of that. And it's simply because of the monopolistic view that has been taken by government in South Africa. So rather, and what my approach is to the discussion tonight is, rather than looking at what's wrong and what Eskom is doing wrong, because neither of us can fix that and neither of us really know what has really gone wrong, is rather than look at saying, what can we do to make things better? Because there's a lot, I think, that we can actually do to actually change our lives, to actually improve it. We can't change the way that municipalities operate. We can't change the way that Eskom operate. We can have an influence on how things happen, and we can talk about that. But we can certainly, there's a lot that we can do to actually improve our lives going forward. And I think those are the sort of discussions that we need to have.
So basically, nothing that's currently, we can't change any government policies or government decisions. We can't pass laws. I mean, we're not in power.
We can influence those. Certainly we can influence those. So we mustn't believe that we can't influence those. We can influence those. So for argument's sake, there's an organization such as NERSA. They certainly do things such as tariffs, and they're busy in the process because of tariff methodologies. And in those tariff methodologies, they talk about how, what I said earlier about cost reflectivity. How does Eskom and municipalities determine the price of energy, and how does it go in? How do they get to the end price? Maybe just to give you an example, one of the things that happens in the price of electricity at the moment, when Eskom determines the price of electricity, is that if you think about one of those turbines, when they generate energy, there's a lot of heat that gets generated. Currently, you and I pay for them to get rid of the heat within that. And the price of the electricity contains the price of getting rid of that energy. So I know one of the business partners that we do a lot of business with, Professor Henning Holm, has consulted to them and said to them, so where Medupi Power Station is, there's a town next door to them. So he's consulted with them and said to them, if you change your processes, in fact, and you use the energy differently and get rid of the heat, in fact, you can power the town next door free of charge. And we don't have to pay, as consumers, we don't have to pay for the energy or getting rid of the heat. So it brings the price down. The guys there told him to go and play in the traffic, in inverted commas, okay, because they didn't want to hear that. So it's those sort of things that change, that need to change. And it's those sort of things that need to be taken into account in the pricing methodology that NERSA needs to take into account. And it's those sort of things that we can influence. So if you go onto the NERSA website, and we all go onto the NERSA website and we go and have a look, and we look at the methodologies that they talk about, and we participate in the public participation hearings that they have, That's where we can make a difference. And we can say to them, no, we don't agree, and you need to change it, and you need to make a difference. And where we can make a difference is that when municipalities try and in the beginning of the financial year, they bring out their new policies and they want to change tariffs, that we actually read those documents and we don't just accept them. And we say to them, no, we don't agree with your policy changes. And we actually comment on them, and we go and listen or participate in their meetings, and we disagree with them. That's where we can make massive differences. So rather than just accept it or maybe complain afterwards, because we actually do have an influence and we do make a difference. So at national government, we can't, but at local government level, where it affects our pockets on a day-to-day basis, that's actually where we make a massive difference. And from a national point of view, when it comes to those tariff methodologies with NERSA, we do have an influence and we do have an impact.
Rene, just give me 1 second to just quickly welcome our President, Neil de Beer, to this live. I'd like to introduce you guys to each other as well. Neil, this is Rene. She's the energy consultant joining us tonight, our special guest. Rene, this is our party leader and president, Neil de Beer. Neil, welcome. It's nice to have you on this live. It's nice to see you looking very well. I think just to give us a quick 5-minute update and just tell everybody how you're doing and how your recovery is going, so that we can carry on with this very interesting topic and debate.
Yeah, firstly, good evening, Rene. I think your reputation precedes you. So I do know of Rene. I've never had the pleasure meeting you, but it is an absolute honor having you here, Rene. And I hope you've been treated well by our SG. Normally, he treats everybody well. So I think you've been in good hands. Jacques, good to see you. Yeah, it's been 4 months. 5 operations and cancer-free. And all I can tell people is that I've got one hell of a story. I've got one hell of a message of how I got through this through God. How I had my ups and my downs, but without Him, without the people, the thousands of prayers and messages, I would not have had the second lease of life. Dit is vir my ongelooflik om hier te kan sit. Ek knyp nog steeds myself om te dink ek is nou 2 weke uit die hospitaal uit na 4 maande. Met die Here se genade, jy kan sien ek is geskeer. Daar was nie baie hier nie, maar ek is reg om weer te beklei. Ek is reg om in die sitplek te klim. Ek is reg vir die raadsaal. Ek is reg vir die politiek. Ek het 4 maande gehad om te sit en luister en om te kyk en te dink. So my laaste steke van my laaste operasie Saterdag uit. Nog so 2 weke, Jacques, 1 September is ek terug. Dan begin ons met ons Wednesday lives. Jy weet daai belangrike 2 ure op 'n woensdagoggend, elke woensdagoggend, waar ons 'n bietjie die ANC omkrap, waar ons 'n bietjie vertel die storie binne die storie binne die storie. En ek het baie stories wat ek nou opgetel het, that we have refined. I laughed at a person today that came to visit me and they said to me, but how do you know all of this? And then I said, well, I served 32 years in national intelligence. I was an intelligence officer for most of my life in the ANC. I'm an ex-MK commander. I know a lot of things that we still have to talk about, Jacques, maar ek is vuur en vlam. I'm still just trying to get the body to accept, I've lost 26 kilograms. Someone said to me, yes, so you didn't have to go through 4 months of hell to lose weight. There's a nice little another program. So I said, thank you very much. Baie dankie. Maar Jacques, ek is reg. Ek het nog so 2 weke by die huis. Dan is ek terug op kantoor. Dan gaan ek julle pes.
Neil, we briefly started speaking about the topics for tonight, and one of the questions that I asked Rene was what has led to South Africa being in this current situation where we have load shedding, and Rene is going to tonight provide us with solutions. I think that this is the main reason why she is joining us tonight, is to give us solutions to all the problems that we know currently exist. Just out of interest, for everybody out there listening. What is your opinion and view on what has led to us? Obviously, we know it's directly correlated to the government that that rules this country. But what is your opinion? What has led to us being in this situation? And just give us your opinion, and then we can carry on, discussing solutions. Because Rene just mentioned quite a lot of solutions and a lot of interesting facts and stats. And I would like to, Rene, then just to carry on, and then for you to comment on whatever she has to say.
Jacques, when I was involved in government for such a long time in the security cluster, one thing we must never forget, and I think Rene will agree, energy and the supply of energy to the populace is actually regarded as a national key point. It is an essential service. I don't know if people understand that always, but Eskom and the supply of power to our populace is regarded as a national key point. It's regarded as a national service. And it makes sense. It's like telecoms. When Telkom was still running, information and technology supplied by government to the people is classed as an essential service. Many people don't understand that it's not just about energy. It's not just about our problem in the country supplying enough kilowatts and megawatts so that we can ensure that the light bulbs are on. One of the main reasons, and I think I dare to go, they say 80% of people that quote percentages are wrong. But what I'm saying is that 80% of our problem of supplying power is about three things: corruption, ill maintenance, and no forward structure plan. There's another 10 that can be loaded here, Rene. I've just decided to go for the three that I have an interest in, and the three where I have got an expertise to understand what is corruption, what is mismanagement, and what is putting people into positions that are absolutely uneducated in the field that they are employed at Eskom. There's many more, and there's a lot of debates. But I'd like to just tell you, Jacques, there's a couple of questions that we are going to, in the next 2 years, as the UIM punch away up to the road of the national election. And that's what makes someone asked me, why is the UIM vital? What is the difference between the UIM, the DA, the PA, Action SA? What's the difference between us? The difference is twofold, Rene. One, we are normal people. We are not politicians. We are from the street. We are lawyers, accountants, school teachers, nurses, police, bankers, insurance salesmen, energy specialists. We are the run-of-the-mill, normal person who decided a year ago that we are going to change the country, and the only way that we can do that was to start a political party, because that's where the power lies. So we suffer what the normal person on the street suffers. And secondly, we know, we dig. We do not just look at the niceness, we look at attacking where we know there is really ruthless mismanagement and corruption. Jacques, couple of questions. Why is the current supply of coal so critical to 80% of the power stations in this country that are coal driven? Who has the contracts for the trucks? Who has the contracts for the diesel? Who has the contracts with Eskom? And for every truck, more than 1,000 to 2,000 an hour in Sasolburg, driving up and down to throw and dump megatons of coal, who's got the contracts? The second question that a person must ask is, where do they get the coal from? Well, in our information that has come out in the past week, we now find out that they don't even pay for the coal. That when you go to the Sasolburg region and the Free State area, where most of our energy plants are that take up coal, and you see the trains and trains of trucks of coal coming past, we've now found out that they don't even pay for the coal, Jacques. They're stealing the mines and they're actually digging out the coal for free. So they're not paying for the coal, they're not paying for the truck, they're not paying for the diesel because Eskom pays them for everything. So can you imagine, and Rene will probably tell us more, what will happen tomorrow if all the coal supply stops to Eskom? It stops. Well, I fear that I think then all the electricity is dead. Rene, ek dink dan is al die krag af. If we cut all the coal to every power plant in this country, because I think the majority of our power, irrespective of Kuburg, comes from coal. It comes from natural resource. And that is the battle, Jacques, that we as the UIM have decided to take on again. Here we are as normal people thinking and saying, Rene, what about wind? What about solar? What about hydro? Why are we not as a country in our fiscal budgets proportioning more money to the three natural resources, which, by the way, South Africa is abundant of? Ons het 'n groot oop spasie vir solar. Ons het 'n verskrikking van velde vir windenergie en ons het genoeg riviere vir hydro. So that's where I'm going to end, Jacques. In my expertise, I know they're stealing. I know they are corrupt. I know that the ministers probably, we need to find this out. People in government, people in Eskom are currently involved in percentages being kicked back on the contracts of providing those trucks and diesel and coal. What we don't see is arrests. What we don't see is the magnitude of Hawks investigations going into Eskom and ripping them apart. And I must tell you that that will be one of our main focuses for the next 2 years, because a country without energy is a country that cannot evolve and cannot even start speaking about a fourth, a fifth, and a future sixth industrial revolution.
Just before we continue discussing solutions, obviously, with Rene, I just have one more question. Is it true that we are currently selling electricity to other countries?
Absolutely. Yes, indeed. Yes, we are.
Okay, so yes. Why are we selling electricity to other countries if we don't even, if we can't even meet our current demands in South Africa? And what is being done with the money that they are getting for the energy that they are selling to other countries? What's happening to that money?
Jacques, you're very right. One of the countries that we sell a lot of energy to, funny enough, is Malawi. They had a duplicate Eskom system in Malawi, and I think I stand corrected with Rene, but Malawi, Lesotho, and Mozambique, etc., they are countries that tap energy from us. I might stand under correction, but that we do give foreign-based countries energy, that is a fact. We earn foreign-based income, Jacques, from that in our GDP. And secondly, we are obliged under contract. One of the main reasons why we are tied in is because of SADC, the SADC, the South African Development Commission, which is 18 countries in the Southern Hemisphere. What is mind-boggling is what you are asking. When we have absolutely huge need for energy, why do we not return and pump that energy into our country first? Because it should be SA first. South Africa number one. We are suffering, the other countries are not, but I think there are major contracts and bilateral agreements. But I think a bold leader in a country, which we don't have, we have a spineless president in this country that cannot take decisions, who, by the way, Rene, when he was vice president, used to be head of the energy war room, if I am not mistaken. That was part of his job, was actually to sit in the energy war room of Eskom to try and fix. Well, he stands judged. I don't think he fixed anything. So Jacques, that is a question that we need to answer, and I think experts like Rene and people like that they need to come up and tell us not only what is the solutions, but how do we fix the problems that we are in at the moment.
Rene, is there anything that you would like to comment on what Neil just said?
Okay, so part of, obviously 100% what Neil has said is that there's lots of energy and solar energy available. So one of the things that we've been doing from a solution point of view, and I spoke about that a little bit earlier on, is that, I mean, Ramaphosa made the announcement a little while ago that obviously anybody can build plants and things like that there's obviously there's certain things that need to happen to make some of the, to make, from a tariff point of view and from a legislation point of view, to be put in place. But for a number of years, we've worked around the existing legislation to actually build solutions for people. Okay, and let me tell you from a practical point of view what happens. So let's just, for argument's sake, because let's just say you live in an estate and you are currently being billed by Eskom. One of the things that we do is we look at the current tariff structures that are there. And we look, and invariably we can find ways in which we can improve those tariff structures. So firstly, what we do is we look at that, and then we say, can we build an energy plant? And we fund that. So we get funders to actually fund that, because so the problem for alternative energy is that when you build it for an individual homeowners invariably can't find the funding or don't have the cash lying around, 250, 500,000 Rand to put solar and to have a grid tight system. Okay. We don't want people to go off grid, because what we want to do is we want to create a grid where people are tied to the grid and feed energy back into the grid, so that we all start creating grid security. Because we want to share energy, and we want to create grid security for everybody. So we take an estate, and I'm just using an estate because we can do people who live in suburbs as well, but from an estate point of view. We then fund, so it doesn't matter if it's 500 houses or 800 houses, whatever the case may be. So let's just say there's 500 houses. We then fund that. So the first thing that we do is, if we look at the tariff structure, and whether it be Eskom or whether it be a municipality or whatever the case may be, we first negotiate. So we take over that infrastructure, and whatever savings through the tariffs we can achieve, we ensure that we can pass those savings on to the homeowners or to the homeowners association. The next thing is that we then say, is what can we do if we build an energy plant? And whatever savings, so invariably through a plant, you can generate energy at a lower price. So if you then say, currently, and obviously there's step tariffs, but I'm just going to use an average. So if the average price per kilowatt hour is currently R2.40, or let's say R2.40, but if we can generate energy at R1.80, we can then, according to legislation, we can sell it between R1.80, because remember, we can probably generate it at a cheaper price, but there's an infrastructure cost that needs to be paid off over a period of time. So because we're funding the building of the plant. So we're saying we're generating at R1.90, we can sell it between R1.90 and R2.40. So we just can't sell it at a higher price than what Eskom or whoever that municipality might be selling it to you at. So if we're selling it to a R2.20, you're making that's the saving that we can pass on. The increase in price will be CPI related, not 17%, not 12%, not anything else. And it includes all of the maintenance, whatever that's related. When the plant is paid off, the price also drops. So the price, what happens is the price of energy gets driven down. But so, and that's how you start containing the energy. And what happens over that plant is, what happens over that estate is that, number one, whatever has been saved in the first place is passed on to the consumers, plus whatever So you're making that saving per kilowatt hour going on, and it's going forward. So there's not those additional costs going forward. So we've, on some of the estates and things that we've done, we've saved, I mean, there's one estate per homeowner at the start, just on tariff changes, 2,500 Rand a month per homeowner and 150,000 Rand a month for the homeowners association, to give you an idea. Just on the tariff changes while the plant is being built at the moment. That's massive savings. Okay, we'll get once the plant is being built, we'll get to the cost per kilowatt hour of what those sort of savings will be. But it's massive. That gives you an idea about the savings or whatever that's done. But so those are things that can be done or whatever right now from a realistic point of view. The other thing I think that one needs to start having a look at is that, and I wanted to talk about, is that sometimes people think that what I'm going to do is I'm going to change over to prepaid and things like that. And we spoke about it earlier, is that some of the stuff that Eskom wants to do is change some of the tariff structures at the moment, where they say, we want to do away with the step tariffs, with the block tariffs. They're going to do away with the block tariffs, and we're going to have a blended tariff, and we're going to start charging a service and a network tariff. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
No, we haven't.
Not seen that. Okay, so Eskom has put out a thing, and they've said there's a certain sector of the population that actually benefit from these step tariffs, and the lower income sector of the market don't. And this is what they're gonna do, because block tariffs benefit one sector of the market over the other. I've never heard such rubbish in my life, because if you think about it, it doesn't matter where you live and what your income block is. If you buy at R1.72 for the first 500 kilowatt hours, if you use 500 kilowatt hours of power, it costs you the same, right? And if you then go to the next step, and it costs you R1.82, it costs you the same. Okay, so I mean, I did a little exercise or whatever, just to give you an idea of what the actual real reality is. So if you were using 1,000 kilowatt hours a month, and you're paying for the first 600 kilowatt hours at R1.73, it will cost you 1,042 Rand, and after that, you will pay R2.95. That's if you're on an Eskom home power light. So it will cost you 2,556 Rand and 20 cents. Okay. Yeah, that's what it will cost you. So now what they want to do is they're going to say, no, we're going to change it to a blended tariff. So 1,000 kilowatt hours will cost you R2.69 per kilowatt hour. We're going to charge you a fixed fee of R1.69 and 10 cents. So it's going to cost you 2,862 Rand instead of 2,693 Rand. Okay. So that's the difference. So what it means is even if you don't use any kilowatt hours, you're still going to have a fixed fee every single month. And that's the difference. The other thing that what they want to do is that if you invest in solar, they want to punish you, and they want to put you on a punitive tariff. So they're going to make you pay a higher fixed fee, and they're going to put you on a different time of use tariff, which is almost 5 Rand a kilowatt hour in winter, the same as what the city of Johannesburg does. So that this time of the year, it's about 4.98 a kilowatt hour. So that when there's load shedding and you kick back onto the grid, you're going to pay 4.98 a kilowatt hour, and you're going to be paying a higher tariff. So we've done some exercises with the city of Johannesburg at the moment. I have solar on my roof at home. I have obviously linked it to our system, and we've proven to the city of Johannesburg that when they've changed people over to their smart meters, that they actually bill people for kilowatt hours that they don't use. and they need to change the programming on their meters. And now Eskom wants to basically do exactly the same thing. Okay, so and it's those sort of things that we need to fight, and it's those sort of things that we need to create awareness of and say that those sort of things that are wrong. And it's those sort of things that we need to make sure from a NERSA regulatory point of view do not go into the tariff structures and do not go into the tariff methodologies. And that's where we can make the difference. So that's part of the stuff that we always, when we do the tariff analysis and when we build and we look at things, that's where we make a difference. And we say, no, we can make a difference here. That's where we fight. And then when we, with Eskom and with whatever municipality is, and we build plants or do things, we say, no, that's wrong. That's where we can make a difference. But I think from a regulatory point of view, and this is where NERSA, in fact, we believe is very ineffective and it's not playing the role that it should be playing in the country either. It's not as
Rene, can I ask you, what happened to the PPA, the power purchase agreements that were out? I know for a certain period of time, the PPAs, the power purchase agreement, that is now the agreement where government and Eskom and etc., where they purchase power from a supplier. I'm just putting it in layman's terms. I know that it was suspended for a time. Is the PPAs back again?
So I know, for argument's sake, with Eskom, so where we have put, so municipalities, those things need to be resolved. But with Eskom, where we have agreements and where we've built plants with Eskom is what's called the wheeling agreements. You can put Eskom buys the power back from you from a wheeling agreement. So those are in place. Eskom, as far as that is concerned, is fine as Eskom is concerned. Municipalities, Tshwane, you get back. Cape Town, you get some money back. It's not great. Johannesburg is an absolute disaster. Johannesburg is a disaster. Ekurhuleni is a disaster. The other municipalities, those things have not been put in place.
I'm very interested. Two things I've heard from you. One, it sounds like, just again in layman's terms, that you are being punished if you want to use natural resource power.
So that's why, so after Ramaphosa made that announcement, there's a lot of changes that need to be made from a regulatory point of view to make sure that we can now benefit. Up until now, all of what the municipalities have done is that you are being punished, that we're being punished when you've invested in it. So those are things that need to be changed from a regulatory point of view. There are workarounds currently. And how we can work around it, which we use when we do these things. But if the individual goes and wants to do something about it at the moment, and you do it according to the rules, what the municipality says, you get punished. And that's the problem. So when we go to NERSA and we say, what are you doing after Ramaphosa's made the announcement? What have you done to change the regulations to make sure that people can now benefit from it? They say, oh, well, we're working on this methodology that we've put out. And you read it, and amoeba can do better than what they've done. I mean, it's rubbish. It's not worth the paper that it's written on. So those things are going to take a long time. So to actually sort out and to actually get it into place the way that it should be. So in the meantime, we're saying that shouldn't stop you and me and the average man in the street from making sure that we have energy security, because for every day that it continues, it's costing us and the economy more money. So we need to make sure that we can actually carry on and our businesses can carry on. And there's a way around that, in which we can do it. And that's why we're doing the things that we are doing.
But Rene, in the meanwhile, Neil de Beer, Jacques Talliat, Rene, who sit at our homes, and I'm not even talking about the people currently staying in places like Delft and Makassar and Khayelitsha and Langa. I'm talking about the normal person that has to feed this little box. I put in 400 Rand yesterday,
Yeah.
and I received 113 units.
Okay, so that's prepaid.
Prepaid. Now, the majority of my people that I speak to are on prepaid.
Okay, so let me tell
My whole
you.
apartment of, let's say, 500 people, we all on prepaid.
Okay, so let me give you my view on prepaid. Okay, so many people have changed over to prepaid because they've believed, because there's been incorrect billing from municipalities over a long period of time. And they said, I now want to be in control of my own destiny, and I'm going to change over to prepaid because it's the best thing to do. Okay. So here's the reality. So again, what I did is I just prepared a little to give you an idea of actually what happens. Okay. So there's service providers in between, and they take a service fee of what happens. And there's no regulation. NERSA doesn't have a regulation that actually says what that service. So whether it's Standard Bank or FNB, or whether it's Checkers or the guy on the corner that you're buying from, there's no regulation that says what the maximum service fee is that they can charge. So it can be anything from 2% to 15% that they can charge. So when you're buying 500, so depending on the municipality that you fall under, each of those will have different steps. So it could be the first kilowatt hours might be 300, then it's 500, and then the balance thereafter. Some is 500, and then the balance thereafter, depending on which municipality you fall under. Okay. So let's just, for argument's sake, we're going to say that it is the first 500 kilowatt hours, or 350, and then 500, and then it's thereafter. Okay. So if you're buying for 500, Rand, you say I'm buying for 500 Rand. The first thing that comes off is VAT. So you left over with 434 Rand and 78 cents. Then the next thing that comes off. So let's just assume your service provider is charging you a 10% service fee. What you left with is 395 Rand and 25 cents.
That's crazy.
Okay, so now if you're buying from, let's just assume you're buying from Eskom. Okay, so I've used the same tariffs as what I've used under the home power light. So you're buying kilowatt hours at 1 Rand 73. For that 1 Rand 73, you're getting 227 kilowatt hours, 0.5868 kilowatt hours. That's what you're getting for the money that's left out of your 500 Rand. Okay. That's all you're getting. So what should happen realistically is that the next time you buy in the month is that it should be on the same step, because you're still on the first step, because the first step is 500 kilowatt hours. So you should still be buying on the first step. However, what happens is that they automatically kick you to your next step, because now I won't say it, we're in polite company. They automatically kick you to the next step. So you're buying your next lot of kilowatt hours at, what's your next, at 2 Rand 90, at 2 Rand 95. And that's where the problem comes. And you don't necessarily know it. And if you go and buy the next time, you again buy at that. So now you get to the end of the month. So let's just say at the end of the month, you might have 80 kilowatt hours left. You lose it. Because at the end of the month, whatever you have left, prepaid, what they're saying prepaid is you lose it. You start the next month fresh on zero. So the next thing you start over. And you must remember is that the next time so let me go a step back, is that the next time you buy from so you've bought your first step at 1 Rand 73, the next step you think you're going to go to the step, but you're buying at that 2 Rand 93. You must remember the next time you buy at 500 Rand, The first thing that comes off is VAT. The next thing that comes off is 10%. And then you're buying kilowatt hours at R2, at R2.95. Okay.
Double.
So you must remember that. So you're not in, and the minute you hand over your 500 Rand, you've lost control over the value of your money. So you're not in control. So you think you're in control of prepaid, but you're not. And then the other thing that the municipalities have done is that they've started against the regulations, against nurse regulations, but they've started writing it into their bylaws, is that they're saying that if I sell my house to Jacques and I have 200 Rand left at the end of the month when transfer takes place, and there's 200 Rand left in my prepaid meter, the municipality says, thank you very much, Rene, we'll have that. I can't transfer to Jacques. They won't give it back to me, and they just take it and they say, bye, dankie vir jou.
But Rene, is there anybody in civil society except for the so-called NERSA? Is there any civilian oversight over energy in this country?
No. And unfortunately, I've got to be very careful what I say. But unfortunately, the current CEO of NERSA is a Gwedi Mantashe appointee.
Don't worry, Rene. At the UIM, we never watch what we say. We just say it.
And I've had serious run-ins. Serious run-ins with him and serious boxing matches.
Well, Gwedi Mantashe, when he stands in front of his meter, he can't see the meter because his stomach is in the way.
So,
a little yeah, I have had many discussions with Fatty. So Rene, one last question from me that's very interesting. One day, and this is exactly how it happened to me, I don't know to the rest of the people that are watching us, and welcome to all our people, and hearts out, and love you all, and it's good to see you. I see a lot of people saying hello. So Rene, it's good to see everybody here, and it's a very interesting topic, and it's good to have someone that understands. But here's the thing. They didn't tell us. 1 minute, we were buying prepaid at that rate, and I was getting so many units. And exactly the next day, it changed, and I got nearly half. That's how I experienced it. And I bet you if you ask the majority of the people online now, they were never told. They were never informed that today 100 Rand is going to get you so many units, and when you go tomorrow and you put another 100, we only got half. That's how I experienced it.
So that's exactly the problem that I have with prepaid, is that they will change, the municipality will change how they allocate the kilowatt hours. And you can stand on your head and whistle the national anthem backwards. You can do nothing about it. You're not in control.
And tell me, Rene, do they program it? So in other words, if they want to,
they can change it at any time.
Yeah, is that a fact?
Yeah. So the other problem is that, for argument's sake, so the same rules apply to prepaid as what apply to postpaid. Okay. So this is, for argument's sake, to give you, and that's something that you need to have a look at. I know this for a fact in Tshwane, and I can't say this in other municipalities, but I know this for a fact in Tshwane. So you need to be able to, if you have a prepaid meter and you go to your municipality, you need to say to them, please, can I have a download for my prepaid meter? I need to be able to see exactly what my consumption profile is for the last 5 years. NERSA regulations say that the municipality must keep a minimum of 5 years of your consumption profile, because you need to be able to see exactly what your consumption has been and what it is when you are using what. Is my load? When is my load? Do I use most of my electricity between 5 o'clock in the morning and 7 o'clock in the morning, or is it 10 o'clock at night? When is it? What does it look like? What is my peak? What does it look like? Okay. Also, so that if there's an energy dispute or a billing dispute or whatever, they need to be able to see what it is. So Tshwane can't give it to us. So I'm saying, so what they say to us is they can say, no, we can tell you how much money you've spent, when you've bought, so the client has spent 1,000 Rand 10 times in this month and that month or whatever, and how many kilowatt hours we've given you for each amount of money that you've spent. So I've said, well, that's fantastic. We know that already, but I need to know what their consumption profile is, how they spent their kilowatt hours. Oh no, we can't give you that. So I said, well, how do I know that that client actually consumed that amount of kilowatt hours that you say that they've consumed in the period that they've consumed it? Just exactly as you've said. You've said you've just bought, I spent 500 Rand, I got X amount of kilowatt hours, and then 2 days later I had to go and buy more. So how do I know that I've actually consumed that? And unless you can give me a load profile and a download, how do I know that I've consumed that? I mean, where's the proof? They have to give it to you. And if they can't give it to you, then so it's against the regulations. They have to be able to give it to you.
Rene, I'm a city councillor of the city of Cape Town.
Yeah.
I am undoubtedly going to make this one of my priorities when I get back into council. I am without a doubt very interested in what you are saying. We also have a councillor in Johannesburg Metro, and we have a councillor at eThekwini municipality in Durban. I'm going to, we have a once a month internal UIM council strategy session. I'm definitely going to ask the other two municipalities to bring their rates, just a sample of their per kilowatt hour charges, so that we can compare, because I'll be very interested just to see the correlation between Durban, Joburg and Cape Town, how that varies, Rene, and surely we can do that.
So just out of interest for you is that I took City Power to NOSA, and there's a court case we're waiting for, because in 2019,
is that Johannesburg?
Yeah, in 2019, City Power and the city of Joburg illegally changed, without following proper PFMA procedures, changed they first of all tried to change on prepaid, tried to bring in that 200 and 400 Rand charges on the prepaid, which we stopped. And they also changed the KVA charges for businesses, where they, instead of billing on using the 80% rule, they then said, what we're going to do is we're going to take the highest KVA of the previous 12 months and build businesses take the highest KVA of the last 12 months and build businesses for the next year. You said to them,
would it help you, Rene, if our Joburg City Councillor maybe had a cup of coffee with you?
Sure.
Jacques, can we put that together with Rene? Because I would like to know, I would really like to understand that, as I open my discussion, Rene, power should not be debatable. In a modern society, energy, krag wat vir die mense gegee word, dit moenie gedebatteer word nie. We should not in a modern day era be debating about the supply of energy to industry and to people. The people, though, that suffer the most are those people that live under the breadline. It's those people who has to make a choice between 30 Rand power and a bread.
Yeah.
That's the drastic part of our life. Dit is waar ons is. Jy koop of 30 Rand krag of 30 Rand kos vir jou kinders. We that are not on that poverty line, we have to go down there, Rene. We have to go down and speak on behalf of those people that can't afford a bread, a milk, or energy. And don't you think that is scandalous?
So it is. So I've done an exercise just out of interest. Okay. So and again, what I did is I used Joburg as an example because I know Joburg very well. So there are about 6 million people who live in Johannesburg. There's about 1.2 million people who actually pay for services from that point of view. The problem is that what they're trying to do is get people. So Soweto, there's 2 million people that live in Soweto, but they're Eskom clients. So now City of Joburg is trying to bring those people into City of Johannesburg. But you're not going to get, the problem is but roughly 1 million people who live in Alex. The problem is you cannot get people who are not earning anything to pay an average of R1, and where the infrastructure is falling apart. That's my view. You cannot get people where there's no proper infrastructure to pay R1.42 or R1.46 a kilowatt hour for power.
But we also cannot have 3 million taxpayers in this country subsidize 58 million people. How do we deal, Rene, sorry, how do we deal with the people that stay in those underprivileged areas where they couple themselves to energy supply, that they actually physically do it themselves, and they draw that energy from either municipality of Eskom, but they don't pay for it? How do we balance that out?
So what I did is I did an exercise and I said, okay, so if we take, for argument's sake, Soweto, the infrastructure in a place like Soweto is a lot better than what it is in Alex, okay? And if we then say to people, because what our constitution, this is my approach to it, is that our constitution says is that everybody must have equal access, but nothing is free. Because, I mean, my approach is that anybody can walk into any shop, whether it is a Tops or whether it is a shop that sells things for $1 million. We can all walk in there. But if you want to take it out, you must pay for it. The same is for services, whether it is electricity or water, whatever the case may be. But if we base it on what the infrastructure looks like and what the services look like. So if you want to live in a suburb where there's great infrastructure, then what we do is we charge one rate of services. So let's just say that if the average price for electricity is R1.42 because there's good infrastructure. So if I take, for argument's sake, a Soweto, and I say the infrastructure is pretty good, but what we want to do is we want to get people to contribute. We still charge charge stepped rates, because the more you use, the more you must pay. But perhaps what we do is we say there the average price for electricity is 85 cents per kilowatt hour. If we go to a Diepsloot or an Alex where the infrastructure is really dire, then what we do is we say the average price per kilowatt hour is 55 cents, but people start paying at 35 cents. But what you're doing is you've got 1 million people paying, or in Diepsloot you've got 500,000 people paying where they're not paying at the moment. But at least then what you're doing is, instead of having in a Johannesburg where you only have 1.2 million out of 6 million people paying, you now suddenly have everybody paying, but they're paying it. And the difference that it makes, if you start doing that exercise and you start looking at the difference that makes to the contribution of the city of Johannesburg, it is massive. It is absolutely massive what it makes to the revenue generation, just because of that. And it's affordable.
Tell me, Rene, what about our pensioners? What about our elderly? What about our people that are over 60 years old? Is there currently a subsidy or a method where our pensioners, who we as the UIM are very, 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 very protective about?
That's a sore point that actually drives me around the bend. And it's something that I believe the municipalities are not looking after. So
sorry, Rene, is there no current grant for pensioners?
So there are grants for pensioners, but they keep on keeping the threshold at the same level. So I'll give you an example. In 2018 in Johannesburg, they overvalued properties in Johannesburg grossly. We're sitting in 2022, some of those properties not been revalued. So they say that the threshold for a pensioner not to pay over the age of 70 not to pay rates and taxes is 2.5 million rand. What do they do? What do they do? So they haven't upped that threshold, but what do they do? They go and revalue the. So I do a lot of pro bono work for pension. All my work for pensioners are pro bono. So
Right.
we go and revalue those properties, and they're valued at 1.8 million or 2.3 million. What do these people do? They go and value the property at 2.550. It's 50,000 rand more than the 2.5 million, so that they have to pay it. And then we have to appeal it so that we can get it below that value. Okay. I've had to deal with pensioners who've lost their homes as a result of it, who's had to move into old age homes, rooms, because they can't afford to move into old age homes, that they can't afford. I can tell you that I'm as popular as a pork chop in a synagogue at the city of Johannesburg. They hate me because I fight with them like you cannot believe, because of exactly those sort of things. They had at one point in their bylaws that they would only grant rebates to pensioners who to people who'd been employed by SAPs, or people with disabilities who'd been either employed by the police or the fire brigade or somebody like that. So if you had a disability but you'd not been employed by a government department, it didn't count. So it took about 3 years of behaving like a banshee before they actually changed it. And it's those sort of things that we need to fight about, and it's those sort of things that actually, it's those thresholds that need to be changed. And I think the same as what we're fighting about tariffs for pensioners, we need to change. We need to fight about tariffs. And pensioners have to apply every year. Why? Why must pensioners go and reapply every year?
Rene, it is clear to me that just the end. You know, we had for the past 2 weeks now, previously, very interesting talk about crime, the topic of crime, and we had some great people on for crime and energy. You know what is? I'll tell you 2 things, and then Jacques, I'll hand over. But it's so interesting. Without street lights, there's no security. So if you can't supply lighting to a crime-infested suburb, you cannot supply effective security, and therefore, again, energy and electricity is critical. But I'm very interested in what you said. You said that just over 1.5 million people in the city of Johannesburg are funding 6 million people for electricity. Am I correct?
Mm.
So here's my thing, and it might sound brutal, but every alternative that we bring to a point where we bring more electricity through wind or solar or whatever, the ratio, though, of 1.5 million paying for 6 million won't change rapidly, because what we are saying is that there's been created in this country now an ethos of non-payment for certain service levels. We have created that habit. Now, in my opinion, what I've done in the city of Cape Town and in certain areas is I've observed where people, and I say this, they are illegally connected, Rene. Now, the person that connects through the normal position, I have no problem saying to that person that stays in Diepsloot, who has connected through municipality or Eskom, that you are in a drastically impoverished area, and that we should give you a reduction in that rate, as you suggested, the 50 cents, etc. But what I would do if I was in charge of a municipality, as whatever brutal it might sound, I will go out there and cut the illegal cables with immediate effect. I will summarily cut it. Those people that are paying, those people that are trying to make an effort, and those people that are paying, they should be standing number one in the line. When you go see, at this current moment, the illegal connections just in the city of Cape Town, it looks like a spider web right through the city. And those, I will tell you, 80% are illegal. Illegal. That is the same argument as illegal immigrant or person here with papers. I could not understand how you don't understand the difference between someone in our country illegally and someone in this country legally that's a foreigner. It's the same thing, Rene. You are connecting to a power grid where someone is paying for it illegally. Do you not think that the first steps we should take is cut the illegal connections?
So 100%. So one of the things, just to give you an idea, in Soweto, is that Eskom is complaining about the money that they're losing. They're actually directly responsible for a lot of the illegal connections themselves, because what they did is when they went and changed some of the postpaid meters to prepaid meters, when they went, some of the people weren't there. So they took the meters out, directly connected them, and never went back. So you will have, because the lady who lives in Soweto worked for me for a while. So she had a prepaid meter, she paid, so did her neighbors. Is that then when Eskom went and disconnected people, because it's like, you can imagine there's a whole lot of people connected to a substation. You can't individually go and cut people. You cut a substation, and that disconnects that whole block. So
Sure.
Now people are saying, but hang on, I've put money in my prepaid meter. I've paid. How can you cut me off? And then, and that's where all the trouble started, because there were a whole heap of people that saying, but we've been paying, and for the law. So, and that's where the problem starts.
But Rene, if we cut the illegal users, won't we have more power?
So, but you then have to go into individual homes and say, who are the individual? And that's where the problem goes. And that's where the problem starts, and that's where people then get killed and people get shot and whatever the case may be, because people are saying, you're not coming into my house and you're not doing this or whatever. So these things got created quite a long time ago, and now Eskom is saying, oh, what we want to do is we want to hand this hot potato over to the city power, to the city of Johannesburg. And as residents, to give you an idea of the city of Johannesburg, we're saying, no, thank you very much. We don't want it, because it's a couple of billion rands worth of debt that you want to hand over to us, and we're going to have to pay for it. Forget it, keep it.
No.
You know, so it's those. So it becomes a very tricky thing to handle. So I agree with you. When there's illegal connections, you have to deal with them. You've got to cut. You've got to deal with it. But so when it happens, you have to deal with it. You have to deal with it there. You've got to deal with it there and then. Because if you let it fester, it becomes, the longer it takes, the bigger the problem becomes. And you're 100%.
I know that you wanted solutions from Rene. But with respect, I think we all know what the solutions are. The solutions are that we should get more power plants, we should get more natural energy. But what I've spoken to Rene about in the past 20 minutes is relevant to you and me. It's Rene, it's to build wind farms and to go build hydro plants, yes, sure. To go to more natural-based energy, everybody knows we can. But what you've told us and informed us about the meterage, that affects me. You know, the people that are currently in the business of supplying energy, they are so far removed from Jacques, myself, and you. They are people that should be receiving massive accolades. These are the people that are the engineers and the funders that are creating. And, you know, for a while, Rene, I was head of an international African fund where we were looking at African countries to fund them with renewable energy, as we call it. But the solutions, it seems in my discussion with you in the past 20, 30 minutes, isn't lying with the supply of more energy. Yes, it is. But it seems that we've got more problems internally with illegal connections, people going against the NERSA law, people just changing rates like they want to, and people doing what the hell they want to with our energy, it seems there lies a massive problem, Rene, in itself, except for now saying we are looking for more options of more energy. That's obvious, but my interest is nearly 60 to 70 to 80% of municipalities in this country is bankrupt. They're bankrupt. They have been found without clear audits. And that's where it starts, doesn't it?
Yeah. St. Lucia, so here's just a little antidote. So my partner's daughter moves down to St. Lucia. So her and her husband, they just got married. 2 people living in a little house. They get a bill from Eskom in the first month for 14,000 Rand. I go, huh? That's quite a lot of money. Cool. So the next month they get a bill for 12 grand. So she phones her mum, and her mum says, why are you using so much electricity? What are you guys doing? So because she looks at the bill. So then Ilse says to her, go take a photograph of your meter, but take a bill. Anyway, cut a long story short, the municipality has connected, there's another breaker in their meter box. So Ilse says to switch the breaker off, the street lights go off.
So they've been funding the public.
The whole of St. Lucia. So we phone Eskom. The municipality is connected. They've not paid Eskom. The whole of St. Lucia has been wired. All the street lights in St. Lucia has been connected to individual homes.
Yeah.
The municipality, the mayor in St. Lucia, the deputy mayor, and the MMC, they all have the same surname. And it's
But
a
Rene, is that not
municipality.
fraud? Is that not blatant fraud?
Yeah, of course it is. But so anyway, so we're busy helping Eskom there to try and calculate what the damage is. But they've gone to some of the neighboring towns or whatever, exactly the same. All the traffic lights as well, also wired.
I wonder if I put my main switch off now, if I might find that my flats are not connected to my prepaid.
So
Jacques,
that's some of
what
the
say
level
you?
of stuff that's going on.
No, I feel that, you know, in this discussion and the discussion that we had on crime and safety and security, every single problem in this country, every single problem, if you trace it back to its origin, it all points exactly in the same direction, and it all points to exactly the same thing. And that is the government, the people that are ruling over us, the corruption that's going on. Every single problem in South Africa, you can actually, that's the cause of every single problem in South Africa. Because one thing that I constantly hear whenever we discuss problems in South Africa is there's always a lot that can be done. There's always a lot that should be done. There's great ideas, but none of them get implemented. And if you try to make a difference, and if you try to implement it, and if you try to make your voices heard, they just ignore you. As Rene said, that one guy that went to Eskom with the solution, he was told to go play in the street. So the ultimate solution at the end of the day is those people that are the cause of all this nonsense, they need to be removed, because if they stay where they are, exactly where they are, nothing will change. We can come up with solutions as much as we like. It's not going to make any difference whatsoever. We need to remove them, because this is something that's just carrying on, and it's not stopping. And there's a lot of intelligent people, well-spoken people with a lot of experience and expertise that have spoken about a variety of topics and problems in South Africa, and they have come up with great solutions. But why are these solutions not being implemented? Why has nothing changed?
Jacques, can I ask Rene? Rene, I've just become president of the Republic of South Africa. It is 1 August 2024.
Good luck.
I have moved into my flat because I won't stay in Tuinhuis because I'm comfortable here and there's a braai. And my state vehicle will be a 1969 Volkswagen Beetle, a red one. I've just been made president, and I've just made Rene the new Minister of Energy. What is the first 3 things you do, Rene? You've got carte blanche. You are the Minister of Energy. You've got carte blanche to fix this thing. 3 things that you would fix immediately. Decisions that you would take. What are those? Sorry, just off the cuff.
That's a good question.
The first thing I would do is I would appoint some very clever people, because I'm not the cleverest person I'm not the cleverest person around to do it. So the first thing I would do is I would appoint some very clever people that know how to do things. That's the first thing I would do. But I would make sure. So one of the things that I believe in very strongly is that, and I think that one of the mistakes that have been made in the past is that everybody thinks that one of the solving some of the energy problems is that we must build big plants. And building big plants is going to solve it. I don't believe that that's the problem. I believe that putting solar on every roof and linking all of those together is how we're going to create grid security, and making sure that we can feed those and making sure that we can do that.
So you're going to bring a very intelligent think tank together that are specialists in energy. 2, you have recognized that building billion-rand plants are not there because they are efficient. They are there to siphon money. So if I get it, we'd be better off with smaller plants. Then am I correct?
So I'm saying put solar on every single roof.
Make it mandatory.
What you've got to, well, not make it available to everybody, because what you want to do is you want to make sure that you can feed from every single house, from every single development. Wow. You want to be able to feed energy. You want to be able to feed energy back into the grid, because that is how you create grid security.
No, every town becomes a power plant,
and every house becomes a power plant.
Wow!
Every house becomes a power plant.
I like it. And your third thing? Fire the Board of Eskom.
So Andre de Ruyter is not a bad guy. Andre de Ruyter is not a bad guy.
Why is he getting a bad rep?
Because
you know him.
I've had some dealings with him. So let me say to you this. I've had obviously through a lot of the things that we've done. When you go to Eskom and you're trying to get things done with Eskom, you try and get a response from them. It's one of some things that are a pain and take a long time. But if you then go to head office and you say, the guys out in the field and the technicians out in the field, I'm trying to get things done or whatever, can you get, they react and they make things happen. Okay. And when you escalate things to Andre's office and try and get things done, things happen. The systems work. Billing through Eskom is accurate. And when there's a mistake and things like that, people set up a meeting very quickly and they get things done. Trying to get things done with the municipality is a nightmare. I mean, I can pull my hair out on a daily basis and fight like a banshee on it. It's just, so I can't fault Eskom. There's many things I can fault Eskom on when it comes to power production, all sorts of things like that. But when it comes to actually getting things done, and from a system point of view and that sort of thing, Eskom actually, I have to give credit where credit is due.
Right.
And Andre actually, in the beginning when he got appointed, I was like, oh, I'm not quite sure about this. But he's got a task on his hands with his legs and his arms bound behind his back with Gwede Mantashe and with government trying to do things. He's got it's not like he's the CEO of a company and he's got carte blanche to run it the way that he sees fit. I mean, he's got a government that's his boss, that tells him what to do and how to do things. And no, they don't.
And
they're hampering him. They're tying his hands and his legs, and very often they're still blindfolding him as well. And then they're saying, "Go ahead and do things." I mean, it's impossible.
Sad. I think it's sad and shocking.
So I wouldn't fire him. What I would do is I would remove, and Gwedi Mantashe, I mean an amoeba is
Well, thank
would be
God you've
better.
just replaced him. No, Rene, thank you. From my point of view, wow. It is, I don't know if Jacques, from your point of view, it is great to have people like you in this country. You know, I'm a professional. I worked in funds. I worked in multinational companies in Spain, overseas in Malta. It's good to speak to people in this country that are still here, that are still energized, pardon the pun, and that have got enthusiasm and expertise, Rene. And Jacques, without a doubt, Rene, you're one of our stars. So stay in it, stay in that fight. Don't give up. Keep fighting, because our country is worth it. You know, I've been ill for a very long time, and I had a heart-to-heart discussion with myself and with Jacques and the people, and I said, can I come back, and do I still have the energy to fight after this fight with cancer? And yes, I do. I think I have survived because I think my road is to continue the fight for freedom, the fight against corruption, the fight against crime, the protection of our constitution, and to get capital back where it matters. Those are the 5 C's, by the way, and one more. We really need to thank God. We really need to bring God back into our schools and back into our government. And it's not about God, it's about religion. We need a bit of faith. Don't you think so, Rene? And I just want to thank you from my point of view for giving us time. Wow, you answered a lot of difficult questions tonight, but you've highlighted a couple of, I'm looking at my meter now in a total different way. It's glowing there behind the cupboard. I'm really going to do something as council. I think we need to do something more. I think we cannot just sit and wait for Eskom. Cape Town has the capability of really becoming power independent, Rene. You know, we've got something that Dubai showed us works, and that is desalination plants. I know that they are hectically expensive, but like anything, if you do the right calculation, if you do the right thing, you can actually use it to bring energy, not just water. So I think we've got a lot of solutions. But from me tonight, you answered the layman question, Jacques. Rene spoke to us about the nitty-gritty and explaining again this box that's just taking my money.
You're very welcome. I just want to say one thing. I see that there were a few questions on prepaid water and all sorts of things like that. So if people have some questions, please feel free to send them or whatever, and I'll try and answer some people's questions.
Rene, could they email you? Could you give us your email address if possible, if you don't mind?
Not at all. So I think it's Rene at trustedutilities.co.za.
Maybe someone can just put it, Jacques, one of our admin people can just put it. Rene, if you can, it's Rene
at trustedutilities.co.za.
Correct. Rene at trustedutilities.co.za. Fantastic. Jacques?
Yeah, Rene, I just want to thank you for joining us tonight. I think these lives that we are doing when we bring on experts is very, very important, because for us and for our supporters to fight the good fight, we need to arm ourselves with information, because I think a lot of these topics, you know, we think we know what we're talking about, but we actually don't. And this type of information you can't get from Google. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we can do this again, because I think there's still a lot of other stuff to talk about. I wanted to give the people an opportunity tonight to also comment and ask some questions, but this live is carried on for 1.5 hours now. So it's been a long one. But I think this is a topic that we must revisit, and we must, you know, give our supporters a chance to also ask some questions, because it's also important to hear from them. You know, I see there was a lot of questions that came up tonight that we didn't discuss. So if it's okay with you, I would like to re-invite you on another occasion so that we can speak about this again. We're going to do the same with crime, safety and security. I think these two topics, crime and the current energy crisis, these are things that are really hurting us very badly at the moment, especially, and I think the next topic will most likely be fuel. and what's happening with regards to the fuel price and all of that stuff. So thank you for joining us, and thank you for your input and your expert comments. We really appreciate it. And please, I'll speak to you maybe during the week, and we can discuss when we can do this again, because like I said, I want to give our supporters a chance to also ask a few questions, and to ask Neil a few questions, because I can see there's a lot. But it's always insightful to have, especially Neil, on a live as well, and it's good to have him back. I just want to say we really missed you, and whenever you come on and whenever you speak, we realize exactly how much we miss you every single day. So it's goed om jou terug te hê, en ek kan sien jy's nog vuur en vlam. Ja. So ek is baie bly om dit te sien, en ons is baie trots op jou. Jy het 'n harde fight gefight, maar ons kan sien jy lyk sommer klaar beter. So ek weet nie, ek dink jy het in die vet biltong ingeklim of iets, maar jy lyk klaar meer kleur en jy het meer vleis bygekry. So yeah, that's all from my side. I think it's time. I'm going to call it a day. Thank you for joining, and thank you, Rene. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jacques. Thank you. Thank
and
you so
Jacques
much,
will
Neil.
get
Nice
that
to have met you.
Jacques will get
Yes.
that counter for coffee with you and maybe join you. Jacques in Joburg as well, Rene.
Yes.
Great stuff. And take good care, everybody, and thank you for your time. Much
God bless.
appreciated.
Thanks, Jacques. Good to
God
see you.
bless you.
Thank
too.
you, guys. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you, Rene.
Die man like
Cheers.
deftig vanaand in sy seat. Well,
Bye-bye.
God bless, and thank you for all the great wishes to everybody. And South Africa is with it. Remember, South Africa is our country, and let's keep it there. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys. Chat soon. Bye-bye.